Welcome to Bonnie's Beat. I'm your host, Bonnie Squires. We're coming to you from the studios of Radnor, Studio 21, in beautiful downtown Wayne. We like to focus on people who are doing great things in the community. Either it's a service organization, a charity, something special, academia, arts and culture. And today we've got somebody here who probably combines all of those because he's Rabbi Ephraim Levin, who is the advisor to a nonprofit called Tikvah AJMI. Tikvah means hope, and AJMI stands for Association for the Jewish Mentally Ill. Rabbi Levin, thank you so much for stopping by.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
And we've got a lot of things to cover. But the first thing we want to talk about is your longtime affiliation with this group, Tikvah AJMI. Tell us a little bit about what Tikvah AJMI does for the community, for adults who are dealing with mental illness on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think it's a special organization and unique. It provides socialization activities for the mentally ill, the Jewish mentally ill, primarily in the Philadelphia and all the counties, the Delaware County area. I think to be able to have a place that provides a social outlet to someone who is struggling with schizophrenia, manic depression, or serious depression as an adult.
Or bipolar disorder.
Bipolar also, yes, absolutely. All these things that for a person who may have those chronic illnesses, it's very daunting to be able to, I think, to be honest, to get up in the morning sometimes. You know, it's a great success to be able to make one's life when you have that kind of health issue. And so I think what our organization does is takes the positive approach and provides an opportunity for those adults to get together in a way that most other clubs or groups would want to get together. Maybe it's bowling, maybe it's an outing.
A trip to a museum.
Exactly.
A trip to New York.
We've taken them to
Yes.
New York a few times. We do once a year a big trip in Lower East Side. We've gone to Brooklyn, a children's Jewish museum there they visited. But
they have monthly parties, dances,
yes,
and every Jewish holiday you can think of, there's a celebration.
absolutely. So it gives a chance, I think, for people in this state to get together, get to know each other, and the truth is there's even an underground tikvah, which means that relationships start and they blossom, and maybe sometimes people want to get together even when it's not an official event. And we reach out and try to provide this service to the entire Delaware Valley.
And there are sometimes people who are not Jewish who are involved in
Absolutely.
the social activities, the trips, and so on. And it's really, in addition to all the good things you do for the people who are dealing with mental illness, it's a support group for the family members.
Yes.
Because the parents are just so enamored of everything that you and Helene Steinberg, the executive director, create for their family members. They worship you. You shouldn't say that. You'll get a big head.
No. The thing is, the parents, you should know, started Tikvah. Like, there was a group of parents back in the early 90s, Judy Zahn, Faye Rothstein, Mike Sloan, Myra Libby, a whole group of Jewish parents who just were concerned about their adult kids struggling with this, and wanting them to have an outlet socially, but also Jewishly, where they could feel comfortable and learn about the holidays, celebrate our traditions, and try to develop a spiritual connection to God. And I think that, so it was really the inspiration of the parents who started Tikvah and AJMI. Then I came along, actually. I work on campus at the University of Pennsylvania, and in the early 90s, sometimes at the Chabad house where I work, we would get Jewish mentally ill who were looking for housing, and I wasn't really able to support them in the facility we had. It was for students, and but I felt very distraught not being able to. So I started looking for housing alternatives, and that's actually how I found Tikvah AJMI. And even though, and they eventually did work on some housing that's it's available, a few units and so on, but and that's when I kind of adopted them and they adopted me.
But a lot of them live with their parents anyway.
Yes.
Even as adults, they live with their parents.
Yes.
And then the worry is always the same. If the parent is approaching 80s, 90s, they worry what's going to happen if they're no longer here with the son or daughter that they've been supporting emotionally and probably financially most of the life of the adult child, right?
Absolutely. So it's we work closely with the parents, even though we give a lot of independence to the Tikvah group is more the group for the consumer, we call them, those who are struggling with the illness, and but we're providing the support. There's I think I always remember one parent worrying about the loneliness that their child might face with this, the fact that they don't have others to really socialize with. And so that's one of the opportunities that is with Tikvah, is to enable someone to get out, find people like themselves that they can be together in a very positive atmosphere. And I think it gives them, for many people, strength and a lot of new relationships that develop, and so that's been, we're been very proud or lucky to be a part of it.
And one of the things that Tikvah AJMI does is to dispel the stigma that's usually attached to mental illness. People have no idea that there are people running multinational corporations with bipolar disorder because they take their meds, they go to a psychiatrist, they do what they're supposed to do, and they function. And I remember years ago reading an article in Time magazine by somebody who was running a multinational corporation who was able to come out of the closet and say, I'm bipolar and I run this multi-billion-dollar corporation, and it gives people hope. And
absolutely,
there have been locally, there have been editors like Liz Bickle who would talk about all the meds that she takes, while she was editing various publications.
There's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to mental health, and this is kind of the other side.
And prejudice.
Right, and so with education and with people, really, I look at it as when you talk about wellness and health, there's physical wellness, but there's mental wellness. And I think that people shouldn't, that the more a person learns, even on just a layman level, about issues of mental health, that it helps to break that stigma. And that's the other side. I think the parents and many, there are consumers, some of our young men and women, adults who have struggled, go out actively and speak about, to break the stigma in synagogues, in social areas, and it's a very important
they hold
thing.
down jobs.
And they
exactly. And they pay taxes.
They can, yes.
And they vote, which is important.
Some can. It's mixed. It
right.
depends. I think bipolar is one of the more manageable ones because of the medication.
Right.
But in general, it's important. I was lucky. Mental health has been a hobby of mine for a long time. Before I started at the Chabad house at Penn, in my rabbinical role, I went to Georgetown University, and I was a psychology major. and I visited St. Elizabeth's Hospital, which was a large mental health hospital in Washington, and actually started a student group that we would go once a month to visit the wards. And we got to know the incarcerated patients, and really got to see the humanity in them. And I, from that experience, 2 or 3 years of volunteer, it was like a, it was an extracurricular activity. But it helped me to, we went to the same ward time and again, so you actually got to know the people, and you saw that underneath the illness there was a human just like oneself, and that human knew they were struggling with the illness. And that was something they had to deal with, but they would let down their guard at times, or you would see a better moment with them, and you would realize that it wasn't all about that there was a person there, and they were struggling to,
Sure.
to under their humanity as everybody, and that helped me. I worked in the public defender office for 2 years at St. Elizabeth's, so I got to understand the realities of mental health, and that's it brought me into wanting to work in Tikvah and help those people, and we also I've extended it, and so now at the University of Pennsylvania also trying to work. There's so much on mental health in college.
But there's a nice national trend for mental health courts, that people are not just locked up in the prison system, not getting the kind of psychological care that they need and that society owes to them. And it'd save a lot of money if you keep them out of jail instead, and just give them the proper treatment and meds and let them live on their own, or live in a group home, or live with their parents.
Right.
And MCES has been doing this for years out at Norristown State Hospital, and lobbied successfully for mental health courts. So, every once in a while you read a tragic story of somebody who was, mistakenly identified as a culprit because they couldn't respond to requests from the police, and it's really tragic when something like that happens. But more and more people are beginning to understand that it is an illness. It's not a curse, it's an illness, right?
Right. No. And there's a popular course, actually, just in general in the U.S., called Mental Health First Aid. And I think a lot of professionals are taking it to help to train lay people, or sometimes it's first people online who would be first responders, maybe the police, whatever it may be, to give the tools, the understanding to deal with someone who may be struggling with a mental health issue. This is part of fighting the stigma. At Penn, what we've done, we did a conference on Viktor Frankl, who was a psychiatrist and is known for logotherapy, which is an emphasis on this the search for meaning in a person's life. That Frankl viewed that every person that the essence of a person is their search for meaning. But there's a lot to say about Frankl. That would be a whole nother talk. But the reason I bring it up is that from the Frankl conference we did in 2005, I think, at Penn, we started to train as a result, and wanting to do something meaningful to help to strengthen healthy living and wellness at Penn in a positive way. And Frankl was, I would call him a forefather of positive psychology, along with Dr. Martin Seligman at Penn. But
the power of positive thinking. Oh, wow.
And he has a great book out called Flourish, or Flourishing. I would recommend it for positive psychology. But the idea, what we started at Penn, was to provide a board of psychiatrists and psychologists. We called it the Healthy Living Board. And they would give an opportunity for students to be trained to help their friends. So it was a proactive wellness training where kids learned from a psychiatrist when something's serious or not in terms of mental health on campus. There's a lot of anxiety, as you may know, on campus. It's
And depression.
50% of college students report being overwhelmed. So, but the question is, when is it too much or not? Also, we have a social worker who teaches active listening skills, which is a way of being empathetic when someone is struggling and trying to find out exactly what's going on in their mind. And we worked with the counseling center. And these are volunteer students who really are being trained to help their friends, not any credential necessarily, just I would call them life skills. And that's helped to increase the web of concern and care at Penn for kids, especially beyond their freshman year. The kids who got trained, actually 5 years ago, we've been doing it for 10 years. They started their own student group called Cogwell, kind of cognitive wellness, and we do training twice a year. But again, it's the same kind of, I look at it similar to Tikvah, in other words, trying to have a positive preventive approach in mental health, which I think is very important these days to help to educate, overcome prejudice, stigma, and these are life skills that everyone needs to have, and also that it helps us when we have a family member or whoever may be struggling to really consider what are the alternatives and not be looking at counseling as something that maybe at a certain time in a person's life it's an important element to consider if someone's going through something that's difficult mentally. So
now let's talk about the 25th anniversary coming up shortly.
Yes.
Sunday, November 13th, from 4 to 7 p.m., Tikvah AJMI is going to be celebrating their 25th anniversary. There are not too many nonprofits around that live to see the 25th anniversary, right?
Yes.
And they're going to be bringing back, close to a dozen people who were named righteous persons who got awards through the years. And they're going to have them all back, and it's going to be a lovely reception from 4 to 7 at Temple Bethel in Wynwood, Remington, and Lancaster Avenue. And the phone number, if you'd like to get a ticket, is 215-832-0671. And you can look at the website and get a lot of information, www.tikvahajmi.com. That's TIKVAHAJMI.com. And Tikvah AJMI stands for, Tikvah means hope, and AJMI is an acronym.
Advocates for the Jewish mentally ill.
Oh, advocates for the Jewish mentally ill.
Yes.
And they got a lot of advocates. And they've got a very active committee that's planning this wonderful celebration.
Yeah, we're very excited. It's a chance once a year to come together and kind of recognize the work, the programs that have been going on. There's an honorary committee that's very impressive, because so far on the honorary committee, State Representative Mike Schlossberg is chairing it. The rabbi had met him at the Minding Your Mind conference and talked to him about it. We reached out. He agreed instantly because he understands the purpose of Tikvah AJMI. But we've got Senator Patrick Toomey, Senator Bob Casey, local state Senator Dalen Leach, Mary Jo Daley, Representative Jim Roebuck. We've got a host of VIPs on the honorary committee. And one of the righteous persons who's coming back to be honored again is Estelle Richmond, who at one point in time was the Secretary of Health for the Commonwealth, Secretary of Health under Rendell as mayor, then as governor, and then she went on in the Obama administration. And she's really fabulous.
She breaks a path for lots of good things, but especially mental health.
She's always kept a special place in her heart for Tikvah, and we're very appreciative of that with Estelle. And listen, we have about 200 members in Tikvah. I think it's the tip of the iceberg. If we could, I think if we put the right resources together and continue to strengthen ourselves the way we are, and continue to try to grow, that really there's I think thousands of consumers in the Delaware Valley that could benefit. And it really, with the right recruiting and getting the word out, I think there are people out there that could benefit. And I look forward that Tikvah should grow and have a bigger staff and be able to benefit the Delaware Valley. And as you said, it's, sometimes we also have non-Jewish people who come. Sometimes they like to learn about the Jewish holidays. They like our food, or they're friends with some of our consumers, and that's
Right.
fine. We're very open to have people join in that way, and I think it's a nice way to create that camaraderie. So I'm looking forward to the brunch.
No, it's a reception.
Actually, you're correct.
It had always been a brunch up until this year, but this is special. It's the
Correct.
25th anniversary. So it's going to be a reception. Starts at 4 p.m., ends at 7 p.m. There's always a silent auction with some great prizes and things.
Heavy hors d'oeuvres.
Yes, heavy hors d'oeuvres. And
A few
drinks.
l'chaims.
Right.
It's a lot of fun.
Jonathan Seidel, the former controller of the city of Philadelphia, who was so witty and who understands, the whole motivation behind Tikvah AJMI. He has a family member who participates and uses the services. He's the perennial master of ceremonies. He's screamingly funny. He's such a great wit. He really is, John.
So we're lucky we have an executive director, Helene Steinberg, as you mentioned. I think that gives a point where we could grow. And our president, Joyce Kravitz, is been very dedicated in her number of years of serving as the president, and actually looking to grow our board.
You have to mention Michael Solomon, who
Absolutely.
lives
Please.
in this neighborhood, and Judy Zahn, who's from the western suburbs. A lot of Faye Rothstein, a lot of members of the board are from this end of the world. Then we've got Laurie Capon, who's from Elkins Park. Helene lives in Northeast Philadelphia. We've got, Tamara Marcus is from the Northeast. So the board kind of covers the waterfront, but always looking for new board members.
And also, if someone knows a family, knows someone in their congregation, in their community, that is struggling with mental health, and they're, as an adult, our members start, I would say, 25 years of age, goes the spectrum. But, Tikvah's there for, our staff is there to give advice. Their parents, there's actually, want to mention also another outgrowth of Tikvah is a support group for parents that one of our own parents runs. He's a psychiatrist.
Dr. Larry Reel.
No, so this is Jeff Shapiro.
Oh, okay, because Dr. Larry Reel is, I think he was one of the founding members.
Correct. No, and he's
25
played
years
an
ago.
important
And-
part, and he's one of our righteous honorees.
Yes.
But Dr. Jeff Shapiro, who actually lives in Bala-Cynwyd,
Oh.
he does a volunteer the support group for parents who have adults who are struggling. I think it's at the Belmont. And they could get the information if somebody, as a parent, wanted to get information or come drop in. They're welcome, and they could get that support.
Tikvah AJMI is also a resource center for parents, for consumers, to point them in the right direction.
Yes.
And Governor Wolf has been a big help with putting the focus on opioid addiction, which often goes hand in hand with a mental illness. Am I right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And he's started these centers of excellence all over the state.
Yes.
And what's it called? Naloxone, something like that. There's some, they can administer something if someone's had a drug overdose that will bring them back to life. It's really a miracle.
It's a rampant problem
Yeah.
in all levels of communities, and I think
And
it's,
it doesn't matter what educational background, economic background, it's across the spectrum. I just was at a function where Josh Shapiro, who's the chairman of the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners, and he said It's like the largest cause of death in the state is now overdose from drugs. That shocked me.
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't
fair.
know that.
When we do the training at Penn, that's one of the things that's talked about by our professionals is, for example, when somebody's struggling, how do you know if someone's use of drugs is it casual? Is it something to worry about and leading to addiction? So it's definitely within this same realm, and the awareness is important. And again, sometimes people, when they're faced with those issues, they freeze, or they're afraid to get help for someone who's struggling. Maybe they don't really recognize that person himself has a certain disposition.
But often the person's in denial anyway.
Yeah,
And the first rule is they have to accept aid, and if they don't want to be helped, what can you do? You can't tie somebody down.
And that's true across all mental health. So it's another side of it. Maybe it's called tough love, but there needs to be that will and that the recognition that on the side of the person who's struggling with a health issue, that they need to seek out, advice, help from professionals, and want to do it. The reality is that you can't create a will for someone.
No.
But that's where, people hear about the skill of active listening, where sometimes if you can be with a person and you show them that you're trying to understand them, trying to understand what they're going through, and that you in a way maybe tell them your concerns. And one of the goals of active listening is to, after you understand what they're, and you have a bond with someone that may be a family member or a friend, that you can express your concern for them.
Sorry. This is not great asthma weather, as Hillary learned the hard way.
Hear you.
Let's put those phone numbers, the phone number and the email address, back up on the screen. You want to read those, Rabbi?
Sure. It's 215-832-0671 is the phone number for Tikvah AJMI. The website is www.tikvahajmi.com, and get information for our socialization group for Jewish mentally ill adults in the Delaware Valley.
How do they reach you?
To reach me, you could email me. People could feel if they have questions on mental health or college, question someone in college. My email is Ephraim, EPHRAIM .Levin, LEVIN @gmail. So it's Ephraim, EPHRAIM .Levin, LEVIN @gmail.com.
Rabbi Levin, thank you so much for sharing time with us. I know you probably work 24/7, except for Shabbat. Oh, sorry about that. Anyway, we've been talking about Tikvah AJMI, and we'll see everybody next week. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.